universe's largest and most terrifying explosion just occurred. We might not have been there to see our universe hit the start button during the Big Bang over 14 billion years ago. We are the offspring of what could be the most enormous explosion that happened at the start of time. And now we're looking at another crazy explosion that scientists suggest could be comparable to the one that began the existence of our universe. In today's video, we'll be analyzing the details of the terrifying explosion, which is the largest the universe has experienced since it was born. You'd think the numerous cosmic bodies that exist in outer space are a bunch of rocks and clouds of gases mixed in with dust, but you can't be more wrong. These bodies exist almost as if they're alive. They're also quite capable of procreation, hence explosions at a certain period in time. Watch this video to the end and you'll learn just how these explosions come into play and what causes them. We weren't there, and we don't precisely know how the universe came into being. It would have been a little nice if our ancestors were like some super aliens from some advanced ancient civilization that saw the birth of our solar system and a couple of galaxies that surround us. Maybe they would have gotten up their tech devices to record the boom and bam of celestial bodies exploding and forming new planets and ultimately new life. They settled on Earth, and then the video was passed from generation to generation. Who knows, maybe that would give us a bit more respite and ease our humps when it comes to the big questions we have about how we can make sense of the entire universe in which we exist. But that's enough for the plot of some 21st century scientific fiction movie series. The context here is to identify just how the first known explosion made our world and all that's in and outside it. The current event that surrounds this video comes as a huge inspiration that reopens an old wound for scientists who've been trying to figure out whether the universe is still being created somewhere. That is, we wonder whether another Big Bang is happening somewhere else in the vast, infinite vacuum called space. The latest discovery of astronomers is quite fascinating, with observations that there'd been another world-breaking explosion discovered in outer space. The crazy fact is that this kind of explosion has not been seen since the universe was born. What is the source of this explosion? It was said that it came from a giant black hole. We think it would be pushing it a little to say that the blast could be a replica of the Big Bang. You know, the theoretical model used to describe the quick expansion of energy and matter which made our universe, well, our universe. So, what did they mean when they said it was the most enormous explosion ever seen since the Big Bang? We came to understand that this would not be the first explosion recorded in history books. In fact, the eruption is simply 5 times more explosive than the one previously that held a record. The magnitude of the explosion was measured in the form of the amount of energy that it released. The observation blast took place in a faraway galaxy about 390 million light years away. Scratch that, it occurred in the center of a cluster of galaxies known as the Ophiuchus. What we know is the cluster consists of dark matter, thousands of smaller galaxies and hot gases held firmly together by gravity. A top academic at the International Center for Radio Astronomy Research, ICRAR, Professor Melanie Johnston Howlett, clearly stated that this is not the first outburst of galaxies that researchers have ever seen, but this one's hard to figure out. I mean, they don't even know how it got so big. We have one of NASA's most powerful observatories to thank for this discovery, the Chandra X-ray Observatory, aligned with other European space observatories and ground telescopes, has been entirely instrumental for observing unique events such as this one. The recent explosion had first put forward a symptom back in 2016, and the scientists first caught a whiff of it. When the images from the Chandra came through, scientists took their time to observe the cluster, and they noticed an unusually curved edge. It was totally out of place, and it was assumed that it could be giving off the chances of an eruption. But they shook off the thought on the basis that such a cavity couldn't be made. It would take an awful amount of energy to efficiently create the size of the observed hole in the cluster. The study by ICRAR took the cue from the study of scientists at the Naval Research Laboratory in the US. The study compared the blast to the volcanic eruption of Mount St. Helens. Remember that? The explosion literally tore away the top of a mountain. The size was much larger than the crater left on the mountain. The laboratory's lead researcher thought the cavity could fit in up to 15 Milky Way galaxies. That shows how deep and wide the hole in the cluster was. Maybe if the scientists had not dismissed the initial suspicion, observing whatever changes became visible to the cluster before the eruption or even after might have been outstanding. It's believed that the event was not a one-time thing. It was more of a process. and it would have made it relatively easier to understand just what had happened. Now, we're stuck with picking up the scraps of what's left, trying to find a clue from the observed wavelengths oozing out of that region. We think that the explosion was created by a massive black hole in the central galaxy that exists within the cluster. Naturally, black holes seem like the regular suspects, given that it exudes so much energy and matter. Now, the excuse given to justify the black hole wreaking such havoc on the cluster is that the energy expulsion can only come from a supermassive sized black hole. The observatory now picks up on the radio waves produced from electrons that dominated the cavity following the massive expulsion of energy. We hope you're enjoying the video. Black holes are still pretty much a mystery to the world of science. What questions would you like scientists to answer concerning black holes? Let us know in the comments section. Subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to be notified about our future videos. We have stellar material, gases and high-energy particles erupting from the cluster. Basically, it's a Big Bang happening in our era. But it's interesting to know that black holes are capable of vomiting something, even if it was just energy, instead of them simply slurping up every other thing that comes in their way. And cluster galaxies are also active pockets of outer space formed by collating the particles that are left from the disintegration of some of the most significant objects in the world. Mix in thousands of galaxies and other charged bodies bonded together by an extensive web of gases and dark matter, and you've got yourself a cluster. The observations were recorded from NASA's Chandra's X-ray Observatory and XMM Newton, an ESA X-ray telescope that was orbiting around the Earth. As we stated earlier, there have been some other massive explosions, but none as big as this one. The blast that comes second in rank is the one that took place in the Camelia-Pardalis constellation in 2003. Its explosion created two different cavities, but it was not as powerful as the new one, even though it left only one crater. This one also happened without the astronomers actually being aware of such an event until they got images of it. The current situation differs because there was a sort of sign that was dismissed. Who knows, we would have witnessed the final eruption of the cluster, and now the black hole had stopped emitting the gas and other materials. It was also incapable of slurping up any other planetary body, such as small stars and others. But it was strong enough to actually start off the explosion. Maybe it had done just enough to create the explosion as we know it. Unlike most studies, scientists don't doubt that there is always a need to compare and contrast between different wavelengths to determine what had happened. But this one seems quite clear. Tell us what you think about this discovery in the comments section. So that's all the time we had today, folks. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to remain updated about our future videos. See you all next time.